is the brand new MG Windsor EV. Now the headline figure here is that it costs only 9.99 lakh. Now if you think about it, that's the kind of money you pay for a premium hatchback or an entry-level compact SUV. But when you check the features, the equipment, the quality inside, even the drivetrain, you'll realize that this is more of a Tata Nexon EV rival. This is a premium EV offering. And then when you check the size, dimensions and the space inside, you'll realize that this is longer than a Volkswagen Tiguan. So the question that everyone has in their mind is, how the hell have they done that? There has to be a catch. Now we know buying and running the MG Windsor, it is a complex process because there are a lot of hidden costs. And of course, we are going to discuss everything in detail. But today we are also driving the all-new MG Windsor. So we are going to discuss everything in detail and what does it offer as a package. So to make it simpler for viewers or prospective buyers, what we have done is broken this video into 5 simple questions. So let's start with the first one. Now, MG India says that this is India's first CUV, and in case you're wondering, CUV stands for Crossover Utility Vehicle. Now, in the sense, this is a cross between a sedan and an SUV. But the thing is, we have already seen a lot of these in the market earlier, but of course, everyone likes to call them SUV. So let's suppose even your Cretas, Seltos, Ester, they're all CUVs. They're actually crossover utility vehicles. They're not SUVs, but then MG is making full use of the fact that nobody has used that term before. Now, if you look at the shape and size, it looks like a van, a very fancy van in that sense. So I think this has that family SUV look. So it doesn't look like an SUV, like an Ester, Hector or Creta. They look a little butch, but this is not that. This is more European in the sense this feels a little more polished, and I think it is for acquired taste because it doesn't have that sort of macho appeal. It is quite long. The wheelbase is 2700 millimeters, and that makes it longer than the Tiguan, like I said. Now, of course, it doesn't look all that intimidating, but I think this is a very premium design. And at the front, when you see these LED headlamps, they've got this seamless touch. Looks quite cool, looks quite premium as well. This MG logo is also illuminated, and along the sides, it has got those typical split headlamp design, as in the main headlamps are the lower unit, but it doesn't look as polarizing as, let's say, the Hector. And there are other bits and bobs that makes it look quite premium, quite high quality. Starting with the wheels, these are 18-inch wheels on this car. Again, they haven't got that aero sort of design, which is quite typical in EVs, but this has got traditional looking alloy wheels, so that is quite good. And even the tire size, it feels perfect in that sense. So overall, I think I'm really a fan of the design, because I think for someone who is a bit of a family man, I think they'll appreciate how it looks, how inoffensive it looks. Now at the back, that's probably my favorite design angle, because when you see it from the rear 3/4, I think it looks quite good. It looks quite premium. And I think in that sense, it definitely looks a little more premium, and it definitely stands out from the crowd as well. So if you want to buy your first EV, I think this is that really forward-looking CUV. Now, when you look at its tempting price tag, you do think or wonder that this is not going to be as premium or high quality on the inside. But that's so not the case, because everything you touch and feel here feels premium, feels high quality. And this is a truly premium offering in that sense, because when you see the cabin layout, the dash design, everything that's in here, well, it definitely screams premium all over. And I also love that it's quite spacious. There is acres of room for you to move around. It is a wide car, it is a long car, and even in terms of the overall ambience, I think this is quite great. Now, the other thing is, of course, it follows a very minimalistic design, and I really love this texture on the dashboard. It has that faux wood finish, and it looks quite cool. It doesn't look cheap at all. You've also got these nice gold accents on the door handles, even the speakers. And speaking of the speakers, the top end versions come with a 9-speaker Infinity sound system. Sounds brilliant, and I think overall, like I said, the whole feel, the whole vibe of the cabin is that of a premium offering. Now, again, coming back to the minimalistic bit, yeah, there are not a lot of buttons and there is not much to do because everything is cramped in here. This big 15.6-inch infotainment screen. Now, of course, it has its pros and cons because the screen is wonderful to use. It is quite good. This is like a big tab, to be very honest. So you can customize it however you want to do it. Now, the thing is, it packs one too many features, and the most annoying bit is that it packs all the features that you would want outside of the screen. For example, if you have to set the rear view mirror, you have to do it from the screen itself. You have to go through the menus and then you have to do it. You have to change it here as well. The other thing is, this has got a large moonroof, but if you want to open this shade, again, you have to go in the screen and you have to do that. Now, of course, the convenience thing here is that they've given these quick access buttons at the bottom of the touchscreen. Not buttons, but of course, there are these icons. So if you want to play the music, if you want to change the headlamp settings, that's another thing. It doesn't get a stock for headlamps because it is on auto headlamp all the time. So again, it automatically comes on, goes off depending on the light outside, but you can't change it. If you want to use the high beam, of course, that can be done from the stock. But other than that, that feature is not here. So that's one thing. And if you want to change driving modes, there are 4 driving modes: Eco Plus, Eco, Normal, and Sports. That also is done through the screen. Even the region modes, light, normal, and heavy, that can also be changed only through the screen. So there are no quick access paddles behind the steering wheel. And I think that kind of annoys you because if you're the sort of guy who wants to change the settings on the go, this is quite distracting because you have to really fiddle around in the screen and it doesn't have that tactile feel that you get from big chunky buttons. Of course, the great thing is they have given AC controls, solid buttons at the bottom for aircon control. So that's quite good and I really appreciate it. But overall, I think this is a big screen. It's quite distracting when you're driving. It packs wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. Now, if you want to change something now, there is no icon, there is nothing here. You are in the Apple CarPlay screen. So there are no MG buttons. So every time you're using the maps through your Apple CarPlay, if you want to, you have to exit the whole system. You have to go to MG and then you have to turn all the settings on or off, whatever you want to access. And then again, you have to go back to this thing. So that is a tedious process. So when you're driving, it's not really that comfortable. It has got a lot of feature comforts. So first of all, these seats on the top end variant, they are ventilated and it also gets 6-way electrical adjustability. So that's quite cool. The steering wheel is quite nice to hold. It has got some buttons over here. So these are again quick access buttons for your music and taking calls or turning the cruise control on. Speaking of which, it doesn't get ADAS at all. The other thing is, of course, it gets a digital instrument cluster and it can't be customized in the sense how the screen is. You can only change, I think, themes on this, but it is quite clear and the readouts are very loud and you get all the information. So it is clutter free. I really like that. And it also gets a tire pressure monitoring system. So everything is shown in here. The battery usage, the range, everything is shown here. So I think in that sense, it is quite great to use. Of course, saying that this is a business class seat-like experience, well, that is a bit of a stretch and no pun intended there. But of course, in terms of space, it is somewhat similar, and especially the seats, how they're cushioned, how comfy they are, well, they definitely feel better than anything that you get in this segment. So coming back to the space, of course, this is a long vehicle. It has a wheelbase of 2700 millimeters. It is 4.3 meters in length, the overall length of the vehicle. So I think it translates really well on the inside because as you can see, there is a lot of space for me in here and the legroom is simply phenomenal. Now, of course, the only trouble is that the floor is a bit too high. Now that is typical of EVs because the battery pack is mounted beneath it. So of course you get that sort of height and you can't really sit very comfortably because your knees are always pointing up. So the taller the passenger, the more uncomfortable it's going to get because now you're always sitting with your knees pointing up. So you really don't have that sort of under thigh support, even though the seat scope, it is quite lengthy and you can sit here comfortably. So if you're shorter, you really like it. But in terms of width also, I think 3 adults can sit here comfortably because again, there is no transmission tunnel. It's an EV platform. It's based on an EV platform. So it's completely flat in that sense. And you also get a headrest in here, and it also gets 3-point seat belts for all the passengers at the back. So again, a great move. So 3 passengers can also sit here in comfort. At the same time, if you don't have a lot of passengers, you just want to lounge around, that's what you can do in this car, because the seats can be reclined by up to 135 degrees. So that is a bit business class like experience, if you want to call it that. So in that sense, yes, it is very comfortable. If you want to be chauffeured around, I think this is a great deal. Another thing that I want to talk about is the sense of space, because yes, this is a very spacious car, but the interior is all black, so it takes away a bit of that premium feel, and you do feel claustrophobic because of the black elements. But thankfully, it has got this big infinity sunroof, not the sunroof, moonroof, as in the roof can't be opened. So you just have to open the sunshade, and then you feel like there's a lot of space. And even the glass house, it's quite large windows, and overall the sense of space, it is there and feels like a big car. So even if you want to sit at the back, it is quite comfortable. Similarly, at the back, it has a boot space of 600 liters, 604 liters, I think. So that is also quite spacious. The only thing is it doesn't have a parcel tray on top. So if you have your stuff at the back, it is exposed in the sense people can see it. And that is a bit of an issue. That's what I thought, but I think it must be offered as an accessory. Now, in terms of convenience and creature comforts at the back, you get AC vents here, but there's no fan speed control, and there is one USB Type-C charging port. So that's about it. I think if you're sitting at the back, of course, it's very spacious and you can sit here comfortably. And by EV standards, especially given at the price that this vehicle comes at, I think it is really punching above its weight. The Windsor gets a 38 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and it is paired to a motor at the front end, which produces around 134 bhp and 200 newton meters of torque. So quite decent numbers for a car of its shape and size. Now, the great thing about this drivetrain, of course, it's electric. So in the sense it picks up speed, it is quite brisk, acceleration, everything is quite refined, and you really do enjoy the whole experience. Of course, there are 4 driving modes. So in the sports mode, which is the most aggressive, it kind of picks up pace in a very, very quick manner. Now, of course, it's very well measured, and it's not abrupt or it's not outright aggressive. It is quite refined and it is quite linear in that sense. Now, the other thing that I want to touch upon is the dynamics, because this is a CUE, so it drives like a hatchback, to be very frank, because the ground clearance it has, it's around 186 millimeters. So that's more or less in the sedan territory, to be very frank. And it has lower CG than most of the other EVs, most of the other SUVs, which are EVs basically. So it drives really well. And I think it is probably the best MG in the sense how the suspension and how the steering feels, because this is not a light steering wheel. It is quite firm, it feels quite planted at high speeds, and even at city speeds it's light, but it doesn't feel loose, it doesn't feel dead at the center. So I think I really like that, because it feels very mature in that sense. The suspension, of course, it is an EV, it's a heavy vehicle, so it has that sort of lumpiness at low speed, so you always feel the suspension is kind of moving, it's always working, so it's never settled at low speeds, and it feels a bit firm, like many EVs for sure. So in the city, you might not enjoy the ride quality, especially if you're driving alone. You'll feel the whole vehicle, it is moving all the time, and there's this vertical suspension movement, especially from the back, and it is quite pronounced. But once you are on the open road, well, that's where it truly shines, because that's where the suspension, everything comes together really well. So we drove this car mostly on the expressway, on the Delhi-Mumbai expressway today, and I think the way it behaves, the way it goes, the way it steers, the way it holds the road, it is quite mature and it feels very stable even at high speeds. Now, if you talk about the range, so when we started in the morning, it was at 98% and it was showing a range of 311 kilometers. Now, the claimed range is 338 kilometers. Of course, that is ARAI certified, so you're never going to get that unless and until you really want to milk that battery pack. But in the real world, it is going to be close to 270 or 280 kilometers. That's what I thought. But right now, we have done close to 145 kilometers and it's still showing there is 33% of charge left. Now my destination is around 90 kilometers. We are heading back to Gurgaon. So I think it has dropped quite predictably, and especially given the fact that we are doing quite high speeds today, I think that's quite decent, to be very frank.
The Windsor's main draw is obviously its tempting price tag of 9.99 lakh. However, let's make a couple of things clear. That's not the actual cost of the vehicle. The actual price starts from 13.49 lakh ex-showroom for the base model. But under the BaaS model, you don't have to pay for the battery upfront. You use the battery as a service based on a subscription model. You pay for every kilometer you drive and you'll be billed quarterly for that. MG has tied up with 4 financing firms for this. The minimum cost per kilometer is 3.5 rupees while it can go up to 5.8 rupees. There are some hidden costs and clauses though, like the additional taxes you pay on the bill and the fact that the charging costs are not included. Plus, in 3 out of the 4 financing options, the minimum running per month is 1500 kilometers. So, whether you do 500 kilometers or 1500 kilometers in a month, you have to pay a minimum amount of 5,250 rupees plus taxes irrespective. But the interesting bit is, even when you do the math, it's still a very lucrative deal. As compared to a petrol or diesel vehicle, the running cost per kilometer is half of what you pay in those. Not to mention, MG is leaving no stone unturned to lure buyers into this new subscription-based EV ownership model. So in the first year of ownership, you get free public charging, there is a lifetime warranty on the battery, and there is an assured buyback promise as well.
Okay, so time for my closing remarks now. Now coming to MG's brave move of offering battery as a service. Now will it work in India or will it not? Now the thing is, if you think about it, the 2 main deterrents for EV customers or prospective customers are the acquisition cost of an EV, and in the long run, they also care about the resale value. Now, if you see global markets where EVs have been around for a while, EVs do take a serious hit in terms of the resale value, so it drops substantially. But when you think about the MG's model, well, what they have done is that they have reduced the acquisition cost, which starts at 10 lakh rupees for this car, right? It is a more expensive car, you can tell by the way it drives, by the kind of features it packs. So of course, they have reduced the acquisition price of an EV, but at the same time, they're also offering a very premium product at that price point. Now, the other thing is the resale value. Now, of course, if you think about it, what's the most depreciating component in an EV? It's the battery. But then you're not going to be charged for that because it's not your responsibility. You're not the owner of that battery pack. You're just using it as a service. And if you happen to be the first customer, you've also got a lifetime warranty. So ultimately, it's not going to go out of your pocket. Financially, you're not going to take a hit when you eventually plan to sell the vehicle. And in fact, MG also says that they have a 3-year lock-in period. And I think that's the minimum lock-in period. And after 3 years, if you want to sell your vehicle, you'll get as much as 60% of the value of the vehicle, not the battery pack. So if you think about it overall, it is a very clever move because ultimately the liability of the battery pack is not going to fall on you. So I think that is a very, very interesting part, and it is going to encourage a lot of EV buyers. And on the whole, I have to say that what MG has done here, it'll also encourage not just EV buyers, but it'll also encourage a lot of other EV players, other rival manufacturers to come up with this model, because I genuinely think it is going to shift the way EV ownership is working in India, because so far you just buy the vehicle and you upfront pay all the costs. But when you use battery as a service, well, it opens the doors, it makes the whole experience kind of more trustworthy, and you have more confidence in the product as well as the brand. So I do really hope that this concept takes off, because if you think about it, what MG has done here is that they have got the right product, they've got the right pricing, and they've also got the right package, and they've also got the right motivation for the customers to pick it up. So overall, I have to say that MG has well and truly covered all the bases with the Windsor, and I think it will be a success, and it should be a success story, so that EV ownership can get easier with time. And also, personally, if you ask me, I still think that EVs are the best mode of transport. If you're doing point A to B daily, if that's the kind of commute you have, if you live in a big city, I think EVs make a lot more sense. They are more enjoyable, they're more refined, they're more comfortable in that sense. They are very easy to use, they're effortless to drive, and the running cost, well, it's close to peanut. So I think this concept overall should work, and MG clearly has a winner on its hands because this has covered everything perfectly as far as I can tell.